My sister sent me a reel the other day. The title said 5 reasons to love men. I clicked 5 blank pages. That was a joke. I didn't laugh. And I want to be honest about that. I see the hurt underneath that kind of post, and I can understand where it's coming from. But the post itself, something about it sits weird with me. It bothers me a little. These videos sometimes find me on their own.
Don't you just hate when a man
But usually my sister sends them. But lately, a lot of people feeds clearly are full of this. A coffee emoji as a whole comment, this video, side-by-side videos where one woman generalizes about men and a man in the next video generalizes back. And the more I see of them, the more I keep asking myself one question. Not is this fair, not is this true, just is it actually helping anyone? Where the generalization is fair. Let me start with the side I actually agree with. The not all men critique has a real point inside it, and pretending it doesn't would be dishonest.
And I can immediately hear loads of people go, it's not all men, and it's going to be the guy going, it's not all men, maybe a few women, because some have said it to me. But what I'm going to say is really important, because it is to 90% plus of women, potentially all men.
In this TikTok, a man steps into an elevator at a hotel. A woman is already in there. He says every instinct in him wanted to talk to her. Instead, he turned, faced the corner, looked down, and stood as far from her as he could.
She does not know that I am a nice guy, that I am not going to attack her, that I am not going to rape her.
And women usually really don't know who you are. And another one.
This video is for the men who say not all men, because look, you are technically correct in that if we look at the population of men, there are men who don't commit violence against women. A better way to think of it is as a continuum.
A man explaining that all men isn't actually about whether you personally hurt women. It's a spectrum. Some men are dangerous, some are not. Some are not, but they high-five to their friends who just told them a story they shouldn't be high-fiving.
And one other very important piece to this is that the distribution of men is not just a flat straight line like this. Like basically everything else, it's a bell curve.
And from across an elevator or a dark street, none of that is visible. I want to make this less abstract for a second, because the numbers here are not abstract for me. Over the course of my life, I experienced sexual violence more than once. And as a teenager, I also witnessed violence at home, including seeing my mother's being hurt by her partner. And the police did almost nothing to stop it. So I'm part of these numbers too. Globally, the WHO says 1 in 3 women have experienced sexual or partner violence in their life. 736 million women. That's crazy. Here in Kazakhstan, where I live, 77.9% of domestic violence victims are women, and 87.8% of those cases happen inside close relationships. The man is not a stranger, he is someone the woman knows. Only 8% of women who experience this ever report it to the police. And my mom usually don't call to the police too, unfortunately. I'm talking about Central Asian country because I live here and this problem bothers me. So when a woman online says she carries her keys between her fingers on the way home, I don't think she's being dramatic. I think she's doing math her body learned to do without her. Here's how I describe that kind of generalization. It's not a verdict on man, it's a seatbelt. You wear a seatbelt not because you think every drive will end in a crash. You wear it because you don't know which one will, and the cost of being wrong is too high. It's just decision about your safety under incomplete information. When a woman is careful around stranger in an elevator, that's the same shape of decision. Not all men are dangerous, just I don't know who is, which one is, and I can afford to find out the wrong way. That's kind of generalization I'm not going to argue with, and honestly, I don't think any honest person should. Where it stops being fair, but here's where it changes for me. And before I explain why, I want to make a crucial disclaimer. I'm not speaking against women. That's my main point. I am for women. I am for women's rights. I am a feminist and I want things to actually change in this world. I have personally experienced systemic discrimination and violence multiple times. I do not deny this reality and I completely understand where this anger comes from. I know what absolute mental exhaustion feels like. I'm not just judging one specific video in here. I'm looking at a growing social trend. In fact, I am not saying I laugh at jokes about men too. When they are genuinely witty and funny, I frequently encounter posts from men that are truly disturbing and hateful toward women. I condemn them completely, and the fact that women today can finally speak up about their fatigue without facing immediate backslash is a massive step forward. But there is a still massive difference between I don't know which one this is and I know exactly who they all are. Or this TikTok with a screenshot of David Lynch, who hasn't said anything we can see in this post, who is just there as a stand-in for the whole category. But I know some characters who deserves to be ashamed more. To me, this generalization crosses a line into hyper devaluation. That's not safety math anymore. That's a verdict on people you've never met. David Burns, one of the psychologists who mapped out the modern catalog of distortions, called this labeling. And he describes labeling as an extreme form of overgeneralization, not the soft version, the radical one. The hurt behind this post is real, but hurt being real and reaction being aggressive about the whole half of humanity are two different things. And here's what this kind of reaction actually does. First, it paints half of humanity in one color, and the real problems of patriarchy, the ones in the WHO numbers, the ones in Central Asia of women who never report what happened to them, those stop being visible underneath the stroke. You can't see what's actually broken when the whole picture is one shade. The actual work, what is broken, where, in whose loss, in whose silence, disappears under the paint. Second, it closes the every people who could help. I've watched men who are on the side of the coast scroll past those videos and something quietly closes in them. They're not disagree, fatigue. The next time the topic comes up, they're more guarded. That's not a win for anyone. I often hear the counter argument: if a man stops sympathizing with domestic abuse victims just because of an abstract joke on TikTok, he was never true ally anyway. I get that frustration, and I partially agree with it. But look at the flip side. This kind of blanket hate speech continuously stigmatizes feminism itself. It fits the stereotype that feminism isn't about safety and equal rights, but just blind misandry. We aren't winning people over. Instead of fostering progress, such rhetoric merely reinforces the most damaging prejudices held against women in feminism are doing. Third, and this is the one I keep coming back to, it closes the women watching too. Every time a young woman sees something like this, something quieter forms in her. Men are bad. I don't want anything to do with them. That line doesn't free her. It isolates her, including from people who would have been kind, including from people she might have loved. And the truth is this: men exist, women exist. We are not going anywhere from each other. I don't want to live in a world where the default between us is contempt. Living inside hate is exhausting, it's hard, and we are not even fighting the actual problem from inside it. We are just making the room smaller for everyone in it. I'm not policing how anyone perceives that trauma. I am simply talking about how I choose to act. I wouldn't want to be hated or written off simply by virtue of being born a woman. That's why I am feminist. It's not fair, and it feels wrong for me to do it in return. So this is the line for me. Not is it true that women are tired and afraid? Yes, we are. I am. But man is trash isn't a description of the world. It's a label. And labels close conversation, including the one that desperately need to stay open. The same goes to ageism. And this isn't only about men and women. The same mechanism, the same labeling run through every generation meme online. Boomers, millennials, Gen Z, same shape, same flattering. Take a whole generation, paint it in one color, pick one bad thing, act like that one thing is the type. It's the same cognitive distortion, and it goes in every direction. Boomers don't love Gen Z either. Millennials and Gen Z take shots at each other constantly. Everyone is laughing at someone. Everyone is being laughed at by someone else. The mean stays the same, only the target moves around the circle. I often encounter this kind of ageism. I'm a young woman in an Asian country, and in business conversation, that combination, young woman, works like a label of its own. My opinion stops mattering before I open my mouth. I'm expected to listen, not to bring expertise, to represent youth, not have ideas. What science says about all of it? I've been talking about this from the outside in, but there's a side of this that researchers have been studying for a long time. The first piece I already mentioned it, overgeneralization and its extreme version, labeling. The most documented cognitive distortion in clinical psychology. It's in Beck's original list. It's at the center of how Burns and the whole field talk about disordered thinking. When we say all men, all women, or all boomers, what's shaping in our heads is not careful claim. It's the brain taking one feeling and stamping it onto a whole category. The part I find more interesting is something else. There's a concept in social psychology called the generalized prejudice factor. 75 years of research across many cultures keeps finding the same things. Prejudice come in packs. People who score higher on racism, on average, score higher on sexism. People high on sexism tend to be higher on homophobia, on xenophobia, on prejudice against poor people, against disabled people. It's not random. It's one underlying factor showing up against different targets. And a study from 2025 looking at American data from 2004 to 2020 found that these correlations have actually grown over the last 20 years. The package is getting tighter. So the people we watch label women or men online, statistically, they are the same people who, in slightly different rooms, are labeling someone else or something else. Hate isn't really about the target, it's about the labeler. And when someone in your life is publicly flattering one group, that is almost never where it stops. It's a pattern, not a position. The main thought. We tend to treat all of this like a moral exchange. Someone hurt people, so it's fair to hurt back. Someone generalized it about us, so we get to generalize about them. Their bad behavior buys up a coupon for ours. But it doesn't work like that. And not because of some abstract principle, but because of how cases actually work. Imagine a man who was is abusive to his partner. Real harm, real damage. And imagine you see him on the street one day. You pick up a rock, you throw it in him. There are now two situations on the table. Not one, two. The first is what he did. That is its own case. It deserves consequences. The legal system, therapy, the people in his life, real mechanism that exist for harm like that. The second is you on the street with a rock in your hand. And that is a separate case. It doesn't get erased by the first one. It's its own thing, and you're the one answering for it. Courts work this way for a reason. Cases are heard separately because if every person became a judge or prosecutor or the executor of their own sense of justice, we would have chaos. If we all acted on our private idea of what is fair, there would be no room left to live in. So here's the line. Someone else's hate is not a permission slip for your own. The person who flattened a whole group is responsible for what they did. If you respond by flattering the group back, that's its own case, and you're answering for it. I'm not asking anyone to stop feeling angry. I'm asking myself first to notice that an angry generalization is not justice catching up with anyone. It's just a new case being opened with your name on it. The real problem hasn't moved. So back where we started, because the reason any of this matters, not the discourse. The actual problem is that the thing those overage videos are pointing at is real. Globally, around 736 million women have experienced physical or sexual violence from a partner. In some regions, Central Africa, South Asia, that number reaches 44%, almost 1 in 2 women. In EU, 31% of women aged 18 to 74 report having experienced physical or sexual violence as adults. Globally, almost half of women have never told anyone at all. And the rate of progress on this since the year 2000 is 0.2% per year. Practically a flat line. But in this matters, something have actually changed. Coercive control, that quieter form of abuse you can't always see, the kind that doesn't leave a bruise, was first criminalized in England and Wales in 2015. Ireland and Scotland followed in 2019. Kazakhstan only in 2024 after very loud case of Sultanate. And research consistently finds that the presence of these laws is correlated with lower prevalence of violence, lower social acceptance of it, and more decision-making power for women in their own homes. What actually moved the number, according to WHO's own framework on what works, isn't viral outrage, it's community, interventions, shelters, helplines, legal infrastructure, conversation about gender norms in real rooms with real people, show unglamorous infrastructure-shaped work. And here's where the math gets brutal. In high-income countries, around 75% of women have access to specialized support services. In low-income countries, only 25%. A 50-point gap in something as basic as being able to get a phone number to call. That gap is not closed by a TikTok with a hate speech. It's closed by funding, by policy, by people choosing to do the boring version of the work. And this is why I keep asking myself, can anything actually change when we just turn around and attack each other? Or does it just widen the distance between the sexes? When a man encounters absolute blanket devaluation just by virtue of his birth, it doesn't spark deep reflection on systematic issues. It just causes defensive anger and desire to build a wall higher. We end up burning massive amount of energy fighting in comment section, while the actual problem requires quite policy-driven infrastructure and funding. It's not the energy this problem needs. The problem itself needs to be louder. It needs to be founded. The final thought. I want to end with something I keep coming back to. There's a famous rule. Most of us heard some version of it as kids. Treat others the way you want to be treated. The golden rule. The philosopher Immanuel Kant actually thought this rule was insufficient, so too subjective, too depend on what the individual person happens to want at the moment. If you stand for how you'd like to be treated is low, the rule asks very little of you. If it's cruel, the rule quietly justifies cruelty. So Kant offered a sharper version. He called it the categorical imperative. The simplest form goes, act only according to that maximum by which you can at the same time that it should become an universal law. Which means before you do something, ask, would it be okay with this becoming the rule for everyone, universally, including me? And this is where, for me, the whole video lands. Every time we generalize about the whole group, men, women, boomers, Gen Z, we are quietly proposing it as a universal law, that this is how people may now talk about whole categories of stranger, about all of them. And the question is just, do we want to live in that world where the people I love can be flattened? And I can be flattened routinely, automatically, by anyone, because we happen to belong to some category? I don't want to live in that kind of world. And finally, I want to say that I was on the other side. I have more radical position on men. And what I've noticed, it harms me, not them. And I don't want to ruin my life with hatred and fear. And I understand why all of this is being done. But for what? Share your thought in the comments. I'd be interested to discussing this from all angles. Thanks for watching. Bye.